Japan Station is made possible in part by Patreon support. If you would like to make sure that I can keep bringing you more content like this, then head on over to JapanKyo.com/Patreon and sign up for as little as $1 a month. Welcome to Japan Station, a production of JapanKyo.com. I'm your host, Tony Vega. So first of all, yay! So that's for a friend of mine whose daughter apparently loved it when I said yay in a previous episode. So yay, there you go. That's for you. But actually there is a reason for me to be saying yay. And that's because this is the 100th episode of Japan Station. So it's been 4 years since I started this show. It was October 15th of 2018 when I released episode 0. That was the preview episode. So November 1st, that's when I released episode 1, I believe. I should have checked that beforehand, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went. But anyway, I know for sure it's October 15th when I released episode 0. So 4 years and 100 episodes later, and probably 100 guests later, or roughly. There's been a few episodes where I've had more than one guest on at the same time. So roughly 100 guests. It's been absolutely wonderful. And yeah, I still enjoy doing this. I love talking to people and trying to find new angles to cover about Japan and Japanese history and society and food and just people living in Japan, pop culture, etc., etc. And I'm probably going to keep on doing this for a good while longer. I'm to be perfectly honest, I'm like super busy with work, but I'm trying to find a time to continue this because I do enjoy doing it, and I do want to continue doing it. And it's been wonderful to see the positive response from people, you know, the emails and the people joining the Patreon, and the reviews every once in a while. You know, they're not too often, but we do get them. So thank you so much to everybody who's been listening and continues to listen, and for spreading the word, and for all the wonderful guests that have made this show possible. Thank you. So let's get to my guest today. My guest today is Kyle Broyles. So Kyle, you may remember him from a previous episode on this podcast where we talked about the YouTube channel that we launched together called JapanKyo Docs. Little documentaries about interesting people in Japan. If you want to go check that out, there's a link in the show notes. Also, he's been a guest a few times on Ichimon Japan, the other podcast that I produce. And today he's on the show because he recently opened a craft beer bar in Tokyo just a few months ago, maybe like 3 months ago. There's quite an interesting story behind that. Him and his wife opened that up, and I'm not going to spoil the story, but it's really nice. It's a great story, and I am totally rooting for Kyle. I consider him a friend, and not just that, but he's a friend that I met because of podcasting. I probably would have never met Kyle had I not been producing the show, and I'm very glad that I did. He's a great guy, and I always enjoy joking around with him and talking to him, and I look forward to meeting him in person someday, because I actually haven't been able to do that yet. But anyway, we're going to talk all about Pintology, which is his new craft beer bar in Tokyo. Specifically, it is in the Sasazuka area, which is on the new KO line. It's technically in Shibuya, but apparently it's one station away from Shinjuku as well. So very centrally located. If you're in the Tokyo area or you're going to be visiting the Tokyo area, you can stop by, probably say hi to Kyle. He's probably there most days, although not the entire day, but he still does have his day job. But you can stop by, grab a drink, say hi to Kyle probably, and just, you know, now you have a story. It's like you met the guy from Tokyo Splosion. So if you don't know what to talk about, Tokyo Splosion is a podcast that he was producing. It's kind of finished, but he might produce one more. But we'll talk about that in the episode. Sorry, long intro. But again, thank you to everybody who's been listening for the past 4 years. And thanks for Kyle for coming on the show to celebrate this with me. And here we go. You're going to get to listen to us talk about Pintology and craft beers in Tokyo. Let's go. Here's my chat with Kyle Broyles.
The next stop is Japan Station. The doors on the right side will open.
So, Kyle!
Yeah!
Welcome back!
I'm here. I made it. Boy, are my arms tired.
You flew here? Is that? I didn't say anything about flying. Oh, all right. So we actually haven't talked in a while. You've been so freaking busy. So,
And you have as well.
well, I have it
busy
too
boys.
with work and all that. Yeah. So we've both been busy. I mean, last time that we talked in public, like I think that was when we were launching JapanKyo Docs, if I remember correctly. So that was probably the last appearance that you had on one of my shows.
Which was over a year ago now. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And we put out like 5 or 6 videos, I think. I can't remember how many. Like
5 or 6.
Yeah, there was something around there. We put a lot of work into those videos.
Yeah. Maybe a little overproduced for the amount of time and resources we had. But
and for the
the
like,
return,
non-monetization aspect of it.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm proud of what we've done. All right, so I'm very proud of what we got. All right?
Yeah.
So, I think we got some really unique people on there, and we got some great stories. Your editing, all that, just amazing. I think that stuff is going to last, and people are going to keep stumbling across them and enjoying those videos. But we do have technically 2 more that just need to be edited, but it's kind of tricky, right? Like we may only be releasing 1 more. Is that the plan?
Yeah, one of them is being shopped around.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know
Right.
if it'll get picked up and used by the person who's expressed interest in the footage right now. And if it does get used, if it will exclusively go to them. So it's kind of in the, in the biz, we call it's in the gutter.
It's one of those like
It's in
shelves
development.
because you might be able to, sell it, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But we do have one other one, which I really like the topic. It's super unique. I don't even want to talk about what it is, but that one, it's just kind of pending once you have more time to put it together. Right.
I was telling Tony before recording, I just pulled out the drive where this footage is stored, probably for the first time since May, because we moved back then. And as we'll talk about, I think, in this conversation, my wife and I opened a business, and it's just been crazy. And JapanKyo, unfortunately, went to one of the furthest possible back burners in that time.
That's totally fine.
I apologize to anybody watching JapanKyo Docs, and we'll get at least what was shot so far that we're able to legally release will be released at some point.
Yeah. No, so the one that is gonna get out. Super unique person, and it was a really interesting shoot, like going out with this person and all that. So I am eager to get that one out. But again, Kyle, busy guy, and like really interesting stuff going on. So life happens, but that video, I don't think, like I said with the other videos, I think like it doesn't matter if you watch it, maybe a few months from now or whatever. Like I think a lot of those videos are still as interesting as they were when we released them.
Yeah.
Because they're just stories about people, right? They're just like well-made documentaries about people doing interesting things. So, that's the stuff you can watch 10 years from now. And it's like, oh wow, this guy was doing this. Like, so yeah. Anyway, patience, but at least 1 more, maybe 2. We'll see.
It's just Japan content on YouTube it's a very competitive and crowded space. So
it is.
To be serious about it, you have to post at least once a week, if not more, usually, or make these like 30-minute to 1 hour really produced documentaries monthly. But you have to be consistent, and that takes a lot of time and energy, which neither of us have right now for that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's super competitive, and I mean, I think both of us have a little bit of at least I don't know. I felt this with you and with myself with JapanKyo Docs. Like we were really trying to put out like the best damn thing we can. Yeah. But also like sometimes you don't have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't be precious in this social media feed world. Like you just have to be consistent.
Yeah.
Which is a lesson I will learn one day, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've kind of learned it with this show too. It's like, I still do the best I can, but I've found ways to make it more efficient and all that. Because I mean, let's face it, I'm not living off of this show. I love doing it. I love Ichimon Japan as well, but I'm not making a living off of this, so I have to kind of find that, kind of work-life balance sort of thing. So
yes.
Yeah. All right. So JapanKyo Docs. If anybody listening hasn't watched the JapanKyo Docs videos, check out the link in the show notes, because like I said, I think you can still check out all those videos. And there's really interesting stories there. So go take a look at that. But let's talk about Kyle and what's been going on with Kyle. So where do you want to start? Because there's a lot. There's a new business that you've got going, which people can actually go to and enjoy. But I don't know. Well, where do you want to start?
Especially, so given by the time this publishes, it'll be October 15th, right? And I think the individual non-visa tourist people will be able to come to Japan on October 17th. Exactly. So you can listen to this episode and then buy a plane ticket in 2 days, come to my bar in Sasazuka, Tokyo, on the new KO line called Pintology, and enjoy some craft beers and whiskey. And we can do this together in real life with beer.
Yes. So Pintology is the name of the new bar. So what's the story behind this bar? Like, I know, was it your wife's idea, I think?
Yeah. So my wife and I we didn't meet through craft beer. We met through a mutual friend when we were both in grad school, but we got close through craft beer because we both liked it. So we would just go hang out at craft beer bars and talk. And that's how we got to know each other and formed a relationship. In the US, right. Mm-hmm. So when we moved to Japan back in 2016, I mean, there were some really good craft beer places and breweries in Japan, but way less. It seems like, especially since shortly before COVID and during COVID, I don't know, maybe because loans were relatively easy to get to stimulate the economy, but craft beer scene is really blowing up in Japan. There's a ton of really great breweries, and there's essentially, if not already, I think soon there will be a good kind of craft beer watering hole for every major train stop. And I think that's how it should be. Craft beer is about building a community and building a space where people can get together. And, we're trying to plan fun, interesting events and talks and meetups and that kind of thing. So that's really, beer is just sort of the economic vehicle that we can build a community around. So when we moved in 2016, we were like, at the time we lived in Shimokitazawa, which now is kind of like one of the hubs of craft beer tap rooms in Tokyo. But at the time, there wasn't really anything. And we were wondering, could we make it work? Do you think the craft beer thing could take off in Shimokitazawa? But we didn't have the resources to start a business. We were both kind of relatively new to being shakaijin. What would you call that in English? Working adults.
Working adults.
So we worked day jobs for 5 or 6 years, and my wife was working in sales at a tech company. Remotely during COVID. So it was like there was no boundary between home life and work life. And she was working really long hours and enjoying it in many ways. But eventually she was like, well, if I'm going to be working this hard, I might as well just pursue my dream now. So she decided she made a hard cutoff date. She was going to leave her day job and start the craft beer bar that we had been dreaming about for however long. So it happened, and now it exists. And really, it's all my wife's doing. Without her, it probably would have stayed a dream, like so many of my dreams that haven't been acted upon. So I think that's what makes us a good partnership. She's more of a just, I'll do it and figure it out while I'm doing it. And I'm a bit more of a planner to a fault, where I might just like come up with a really elaborate plan that never happens. So it's good that she pushed it out the door, and it's working so far. We've survived for 3 months, haven't lost our asses on it. So off to a pretty strong start.
Wow. So 3 months. So that means what, you started in like June?
Yeah, our quote unquote pre-open, soft open period, where basically that just meant we have no idea what we're doing, so we're not calling this officially open yet because we don't know.
Please forgive us.
Between June 29th and July 16th was that period. So we've been officially publicly open, grand open, etc. since July 16th.
Okay. So like what was the process like of like actually getting started with this? Like, so your wife put in her resignation, and I guess probably before that she was already like researching like what good places, what location would be good and all that.
Yeah, so she had started looking probably spring of this year, maybe February or March, seriously looking at places. And we were looking in Yoyogi Uehara and Yoyogi Koen, which are really kind of fancy, bougie neighborhoods, and they're really expensive. So the places we were finding in those areas were either 3 times more expensive than what we ended up getting in Sasazuka, or a lot smaller. There was one place that basically our only choice would have been to theme it as like a Hobbit bar because the ceiling was so low. Like certain foreigners or tall people in general would probably have to duck to get in there. So, and that was like twice the price of what we got in Sasazuka, which is much more spacious. So that was a bit of a journey of just kind of coming to terms with, our first sort of where we wanted to be based on sort of the clientele and the demographics and whatnot. Just wasn't feasible for us as new business owners. So then we were actually recommended Sasazuka by the owner of a craft beer bar, and he has 3 of them now around Tokyo, but we were his regulars when he first opened in Shimokitazawa. It's called Tap and Growler. The owner there is Kanai-san. He's a really interesting guy, just super like, tough Japanese businessman. He has a good sense of humor, but he'll tell you like exactly what he thinks. And
that's good.
And it's been really helpful getting feedback and advice from him. So he was the one who suggested Sasazuka as a potential location. And we found the spot. I think we probably signed the lease. So Yuki left her job at the end of April. We signed the lease she left at the beginning of April. We signed the lease in the middle or end of April, and then by June 29th, we were open and serving beer. So,
wow.
And when we got the space, it was just an empty concrete room. So we didn't have like the bones of a bar to build on. So we were just lucky we found a really good contractor, designer, who actually did the Blue Note in Omotesando, the really nice
like a jazz bar?
Jazz and live bar. Yeah. Blue Note's a chain. They have several locations around the world, but
we have one in Waikiki here.
Yeah, they do.
Honolulu.
Yeah. But he did the Tokyo Blue Note. So we got that guy, and he likes alcohol. So he was like, I'll do it on a budget for you guys, because he just likes the bar culture, I guess. So we had a pretty tight budget, but he made it work and cut whatever corners he needed to. And the keg refrigerator system was built by a guy from Fukushima Refrigeration, who's supposed to be like the guy in Japan to build custom tap systems. So we have a really nice primo top of the line tap system. That's where like probably half of not half, but at least interior wise, close to half of the budget went to just that keg system, because it's craft beer. So we don't want to mess up that. That's like super crucial. You don't want you don't want the lines to be nasty, or that all needs to be perfect. So some people will build their own systems and they'll spend months doing it, and it's a big learning curve, and it will take a lot of their time, and they'll want to rip their hair out. But at the end of it, they've built a system that they know really well, that's theirs.
Right.
We didn't really have time to do that. Yuki was like, she left her job. We don't have a huge nest egg to live off of. So it was like,
Sure.
she went from nothing to an open bar, that operating bar, in like 2 months, which is pretty impressive.
Crazy. Yeah. Huh. So like I've heard from, I can't remember this guy's name, but he knows about like Tokyo city infrastructure and all this stuff. I listened to like an interview in a couple of different places, but like, for example, like liquor licenses are like so cheap compared to like the US, right? Like starting a bar in the US is like, if you're going to go into huge debt, or you're already like rich, so you can expand, right? Like
I was surprised by that.
Tokyo,
yeah.
Like it's very affordable, relatively speaking. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Cause in the US, and I think it depends on the state and the city and whatever else, but I just remember even in Indiana, small town Indiana, where I grew up, probably because it's a more conservative area, they have a limited number of liquor licenses. So if you want a liquor license, you basically buy it at auction from somebody who already has one. And it can be like $100,000 plus. Probably in bigger cities, it might be more. I don't know. But just for the license. Yeah. And we didn't even spend that to open the bar, I think. So like we spent less than the cost of a liquor license in the United States, probably completely to get an open and operating bar. And it was surprisingly easy. Like for me to get a license to serve it, you always need somebody that has basically gone to one of these little sessions where there's an Oji-chan at a podium who shows you a couple of videos and gives you a book in 30 minutes, kind of points out a few pages like, oh yeah, this page is where it says don't give alcohol to minors. This page is where it says, like, if you own a grocery store, alcohol has to be separated from non-alcoholic drinks so people don't accidentally buy alcohol based. So like he walks you through some pretty obvious like points you need to know. And then it's like, congratulations, you have your license to serve alcohol.
And then he gives you a beer.
Exactly. It's like, all right, now let's go have an ichikai. But yeah, that whole thing was like maybe an hour and a half. And that's all I had to do to legally serve alcohol. And as long as there's one person at the bar who has taken that little class, then you're good to go.
Yeah, it's that's what I've heard. Basically, it's so much easier. Doesn't cost us anywhere near as much, and that's part of the reason why you're able to get so many like different tiny little shops here and there around Tokyo, like for these like super niche bars, super niche little shops and all that, because it's just much easier for a small business to survive compared to how it is in many like especially cities in the US at least.
Oh yeah, it's totally night and day. Like if you want to start a bar in the US, it's going to be a huge undertaking with a lot of upfront out of pocket expenses, and even like loans in the US. Our business loans are through the city of Shibuya. We don't have that many, but just kind of enough to help us get started. But interest is 0.5%. In the first year, there's no interest. Wow. So it's basically, they're just giving you free money, I think, to stimulate, right now the economy in Japan's not the best. So I think they're just stimulating anybody who's like interested in starting something new. They're investing in that right now. And that kind of feeds to my earlier point of more and more tap rooms are opening and more breweries are opening. I have a suspicion, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting for you to have somebody more established in the craft beer industry on your show. There's several people. I could give you some names who I think would be interesting to talk to, but I can't say for sure as an insider as to why all these breweries are popping up, but I have a feeling in many cases it's this kind of easy money around the pandemic time of trying to stimulate the economy.
Yeah, something interesting. I saw an article recently. It was a Japanese article saying how like younger people are drinking less alcohol these days in Japan.
Yeah. That kind of went semi-viral recently, right? They're doing a competition to come up with ideas.
Yeah. And to me, it was kind of like a BS news story.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, like, I think maybe people in general might just be drinking less because it's like, well, like you realize like you don't really have to be drinking so much. I mean, isn't it like as simple as that? It's like people try to come up with these like crazy like excuses that to me don't make any sense. It's like, no, you know what's like, there's less money around. People are making less money compared to the like rising cost of living. And it's like, yeah, you could have 10 beers or you could just have 2, have a good time with your friends and go home. Like,
Yeah. And drinking a lot of alcohol is not healthy. I know. As somebody who's been running a bar for the past few months, I've had to learn, like, I can't just drink beer all the time or I'll feel crappy.
One for you, one for me.
Yeah, sometimes customers will come in and, it's a way of supporting us, but they'll just keep, like, buying us beers. And they're like, oh, man, don't do a half pint, do a pint. Come on. It's like, oh, please, give me a break. But I think we should do a segment here where we brainstorm some ideas of how to get people to drink more alcohol, health and fiscal responsibility be damned.
Yeah. All right. So here's the segment.
Yeah,
how are we going to get Japanese people to drink more alcohol?
I think craft beer is good. I mean, I'm a little biased there, but you make it feel like something that's local and artisan, and you're supporting small business.
So that's the reasonable answer. In that, I think that maybe this is a larger trend, and you see this, back like how the American media and like English language media says like millennials are doing this, Zoomers are doing this, blah, blah, blah.
Millennials killed Applebee's.
Yeah, it's their fault. It's like, no, maybe Applebee's just kind of sucked, It's like. So no. So my point is like, it's maybe just this larger trend where people like, they're still going to get drunk on craft beer. You're still going to get a few people that get drunk on that. Of course, it's alcohol. It happens. But maybe the trend is to, rather than just drinking as many beers as possible, to actually like taste and try these different things and these unique things, like you were saying, like local brews and this kind of stuff. So it's more about the experience rather than just trying to knock back as many as you can.
Yeah. Drinking like 50 Asahis in one night.
Yeah, it's like, I've had Asahi 50 in one night. Maybe I'll try something new.
And craft gin is blowing up, and people are trying to make craft shochu happen, and nihonshu in general. Like, I think this whole sort of artisan approach where you, as you're drinking it, you learn about the process and the person who made it, and like the sacrifices and decisions they made to create the flavor profile. Like you said, it's more about the experience and savoring and enjoying these things responsibly than just I don't even, what is it, hapushu?
What happens that night?
Drinking like 30 cans of, is it hapushu? That's the term for like artificial rice beer or like malt beer.
I think so. Yeah, hapushu.
Hapushu,
right? Yeah.
I don't drink this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I don't drink in general, but I've heard the word enough times that I remember it.
Yeah. So that's the reasonable answer. We need 3 because of rule of 3. So another suggestion for the Ministry of Culture, whoever is doing this initiative, I would say too many of these buraku kaisha, as you call them, these companies who have unhealthy working practices.
Yeah.
They're going soft and people are less stressed. So we got to reverse those initiatives and make people more stressed so that they want to drink more and turn off the lights on their heads. I think, right? That's why people overdrink. So that's the irresponsible, not serious suggestion for this segment.
Yeah,
make people overworked again.
Yeah. We need to, let's make Japan overworked again. Yes.
Which I if it's not clear, I definitely do not believe that. So
yes, I think if you've listened to us talk before, I think people got it. But just in case there's a new listener, so that we need one more.
Yeah,
one more. Is that?
It's your turn now.
Okay, so it's my turn. I mean, this is, you'd have to put a very like distinct disclaimer on this because you don't want to get kids involved. But in Japan sometimes
I like where this is going. Lower the drinking age to like 12. 12-year-olds,
Or
hey,
that-
they can put them away.
or like you have to do it like in the US how they treat like spray paint cans and it's like locked, you know.
Oh yeah,
So basically, like when you go to sometimes I'm sure some drinks still do this, but like teas or like maybe like CC lemon or something, sometimes they'll have like toys, you know, like the little like keychains or whatever, like linked like in a little plastic bag that
Yeah.
is on the bottle cap.
yeah,
Right. So you should do that, but with like the beers, but it has to be something that's, you know, for adults, you know, like I don't know. Can you think of something that would appeal to the demographic we're shooting for? A little free treat for them.
yeah. Well, I mean, collectibles in Japan, adults
Yeah.
are always going to gachapons and getting
That's
the
true.
interesting little collectibles. So it could be an alcohol related series of like drunk cats or something. I think would
Yeah,
really take
I,
off.
I like that. I like that. Yeah,
You get a
a
little
guy puking in a toilet, you know, like
Yeah.
one of those little series.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like a drunk salaryman series would be good. You get all your
Yeah.
little figurines and you try to collect the best. I think that would definitely work. That's a good one.
Yeah. And it's a format they're already used to because, you know, like I said, you get the teas with the little thing on the bottle cap, you know, so
Yeah.
it's perfect. It's perfect. But you got to be responsible, right? You got to make sure that the kids aren't getting, you know.
Yes.
So, yeah. Oh, well, here's a bonus one. You need a yurukara. You need a little mascot.
There we go. Yeah.
The alcohol mascot.
We got to talk to the Koronon people and see if
The
we can-
Koronon people, yeah.
They know what it
And-
takes
and
to
you know
build
what?
a mascot.
So you know how all these mascots they have, well, not all of them, but a lot of them they'll have some sort of inflection at the end. So if it's a cat, they might speak like something, yeah, you know, like something like
Mhm.
that. So this one will be like moto no me sake or something like, you know, sake at the end, you know.
Yeah. Hey, I think this is great. I think you figured it out. You should definitely
Yeah.
submit that to the Ministry of Culture.
All right, I as soon as I get the edit done, I am sending this over.
Yeah, collaborate with one of those fancy internet artists you've been working with.
Yeah. I'll have them draw up a little, you know, like mock up of the character and say like, this will save Japan. You know. So, all right, we
Man.
got that done.
You're a
all right,
genius,
so-
Tony.
Yeah.
I feel a little like nervous now talking to you. I didn't realize you were.
Well, you know,
had such a
I'm an
big
idea
brain.
guy. All right, I'm the guy that like, you know, it's like, hey, here's an idea, and then I need people to execute it. That was JapanKyo Docs Con is like, I found this crazy guy. You want to like,
Yeah.
Kyle, go talk to him.
Which is exactly what I needed.
Yeah,
That was why it was perfect.
it's like I found the guy with the pompadour. Go talk to him. Go spend the day with him. I found the guy that raises emus. Go talk to him. Oh, all right. So Pintology, you know, you've got the craft beers, you've got domestic and import, you've got both, right?
Mhm. Oh yeah, there's a lot of great Japanese beers right now.
So you've got that, but I also saw you have whiskey too, right?
Oh yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
from Indiana, so the Kentucky is just a couple hours drive away from where I grew up. So
Mhm.
bourbon is in the water, I think, where I live. You know,
Yeah.
So I had to represent. We have lots of bourbon is really kind of the focus right now. That's what we have the most of. But we have some other interesting non-bourbon American whiskeys and Scottish whiskeys and
Nice.
Japanese whiskeys as well. The list is always
Nice,
changing and improving and growing.
And you're always posting on at Pintology Tokyo on Instagram, right? Like
Yeah.
whatever you have on top.
Yeah, Instagram is really the main place. Like if you're in the area and you want to check us out, or if you're curious what we're up to, Pintology Tokyo on Instagram is definitely our main communication tool.
Yeah. All right, and then so do you have food as well?
We have a small like snack menu. We've experimented with various different things. The owner of the building doesn't allow us to have a full kitchen.
Gotcha.
We're slowly, basically in Japan, when it comes to like neighborhood politics, nothing moves overnight, and you don't want to like push.
Yeah.
So we've been slowly building trust with the landlord to hopefully, eventually, what we want to do and what several other tap rooms or craft beer places in Tokyo have done because ordering and maintaining and doing all that for craft beer for 12 taps is a job by itself.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have the bar be able to be run by one person if possible, because I still have a day job and my wife's the main person really making the bar happen. So I go there when it's busy, on evenings and weekends. But we're being very strategic with what kind of food offerings we want to have. And we're leaning toward collaborating with whether they're people in the neighborhood or just people in Japan making interesting things, like getting salami from a guy in Chiba who uses some obscure Italian process, whatever.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting.
Keeping the curation of artisan things kind of that goes with the theme of craft beer. So we're working on building a menu that we can serve at a sufficient level of quality. Like we serve some really nice cheeses from a guy named John in Okinawa, a British guy.
John in Okinawa.
He's called the Okinawa.
That's so funny.
He's called the cheese guy in Okinawa. I bet he'd be great to have on your show sometime. You should.
I'm very curious. I think I may. Yeah, let me know. Yeah.
He makes this great cheese because a lot of like European cheese, they freeze it on the way over to Japan. So by the time it gets here, it's lost its sort of funkiness and kind of the qualities of being a living culture that cheese really should have. So he makes it in Okinawa so you can get this fresh, well-crafted cheese that still has that.
I do want to talk to this guy, absolutely. So yeah, tell me later how to contact him.
Yeah, I'll send you. He's great. Like after my first order, we started kind of an email conversation, and he's helped me out with different ideas of how to serve it in the bar. The only issue with that cheese is like most people in Japan, and maybe most people in America too, their expectation of cheese is this really safe kind of homogenized isn't the right word, but all the rough edges have been
like craft cheese, basically. Like
all the rough edges have been filed down, and cheddar is this little safe yellow or white brick that you buy that doesn't really have any flavors that are too challenging or interesting.
Exactly.
So a lot of people, they don't know what to expect with that cheese. And so I think a lot of people some people really like it. Some people would rather have a cheese they're more familiar with.
Sure.
And then also that cheese is kind of delicate and like it's stinky. So like serving it, I don't know if it's what we want to do in the long term. So things like that, we're always testing our food menu, and that's kind of in my mind, the big challenge right now that I want to solve. My wife Yuki doesn't really care about it. She's like, we have good beer, people can bring in food. Like, I'm not worried about that aspect, but I do want something special food wise that people are like, oh, let's go to that place that has good craft beer and blank. So that's nice. I do. Yeah. I'm more, I don't drink alcohol, so that's especially maybe why I'm on your side, but it's nice to have that little distinguishing thing on top of, already good beer. The argument from my wife and that guy I mentioned earlier, who has a tap room in Shimokitazawa, they don't have food. His strategy is like, I want the hardcore craft beer fans because they spend the most money. And it's like, I don't want to appeal to anybody else. So he just like, he doesn't serve whiskey. He doesn't serve sours. He doesn't have a big soft drink selection. He's like, if you really like craft beer, I want you to be my customer, and everyone else basically go somewhere else is his philosophy.
Yeah. I mean,
and there's something to be said about that.
Niche right there, right? Like that makes sense. Makes sense.
In Sasazuka, doesn't have the same foot traffic as Shimokitazawa. There aren't as many people going out of their way to go to Sasazuka. So we do have to appeal to the people in the neighborhood and find them where they are and not be elitist beer snobs, because that's not how we're going to grow the community. So one final point on the food thing. I don't know if this is interesting to anybody. There might be one person who's like wanted to open a bar in Japan who's like, oh, this episode's amazing. But everybody else is like, what is this? But one last point on the food thing. We have a space in front of the shop. The owner has said we can't put a food truck there, but that's our long-term goal, is to collaborate with somebody who has a food truck.
That would be awesome.
I would like to do like, we were talking, because a lot of places they'll have like a taco food truck or burgers. And I think Nikumon would be really nice, like a really quality Nikumon stand.
Yeah.
So people walking by in the neighborhood, because we do get some commuter foot traffic in front of our shop. So those people coming home from work or whatever, they might not drink beer, but they would probably pick up some Nikumon from the food truck if it's quality. And then the people in the tap room drinking beer could also enjoy some nice Nikumon. So something like that is where we're sort of building to, but we have to build the trust of our landlord and convince her to let somebody park their, K truck out front and serve whatever it is that they serve.
Yeah. I mean, well, you just little by little, right? You got the big thing done, which is you're open, you're running, and now you can kind of, find that right balance until you have more freedom to do whatever it is you end up deciding to do.
Yeah, that's basically what we're doing. And everybody who comes, I mean, we get a lot of suggestions. I can tell just from people's feedback, they do want some nice, substantial food other than, chips and popcorn and whatever else we can quickly put together. So I definitely want to make that happen. And that is a project of mine. Yuki doesn't really care, but
that's all right.
Oh, we do. There's a new neighborhood taco stand that actually opened. Their grand opening was the same day as ours, July 16th. They will deliver tacos and burritos and nachos to us.
Oh, that's awesome.
Currently, that is filling part of the need of somebody who comes and wants some more substantial food. They'll just deliver food.
Nice. Okay, so at least you can get some burritos.
Yeah. And the owner is a Mexican guy named Roy. Really nice guy. He makes his own tortillas, so
nice.
It's as authentic as you can find around Sasazuka, that's for sure.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. All right. And then I saw on Instagram that you did an event recently, so it seems like you're going to be doing that sort of thing as well.
Yeah. So like I said before, beer and alcohol really is just the economic vehicle to build a community around. So I've had a broad interest in just sort of, whether it's movies or music, obscure media. I've had stints in being an enjoyer of modern poetry. Just in general, I like to just kind of check out what's this thing about. So one of the long-term goals is to become more of a cultural space where we use parts of our open wall space, maybe to do little exhibitions or gallery type showings of local artists. Last week, what we did was sort of a DJ event, but it came out of a conversation with some people in the area. There's a shop also in Sasazuka called Silo Saibin. So if you ever come to Sasazuka, we actually have a little booklet in the bar right now made by one of the owners of Silo Saibin, of all the cool places in Sasazuka you should check out, like record stores and coffee shops and restaurants. And lots of these little places are popping up around this area that used to be not really the first place you would think of as a hip place to go and check out. But lots of us small business owners are starting to kind of band together and support each other and try to create something interesting in Sasazuka where people might want to go out of their way to come check out this relatively obscure station, which is only one stop from Shinjuku, by the way. So it's easy to get to on the Keio line. It's the next stop if you take the express train. But in that guy's shop, the guy who made this booklet, his name's Ian, really cool guy. He and his wife run a shop somewhat close to our tap room, and they sell these little obscure Chinese tape players / recorders / you can use them to make little loops and samples. Like
cassette tapes, right? We're talking
tapes,
like
audio cassette tapes.
Before CDs, like cassette tapes. Yeah.
And they're good salespeople. So they've convinced several weirdos like me in the area to buy these little things and start tinkering with them. And one day, a few of us were in our bar talking about them and admiring some of the modifications another guy made to his. And we were like, we
put a spoiler on it, and rims. And...
No, he did some really cool stuff. He put like a little wheel you can spin, so you can basically scratch it like a record, like a DJ.
Oh man!
He put a knob where you can change the speed, so you can make the tape play really slow or really fast. Yeah, he put all kinds of modifications into it. But we were looking at that, and I was like, oh, I'd really like to start getting into this kind of stuff. And we were talking about basically doing an owners group meeting for this obscure tape player at my bar. And that's how it started. We got really excited about it and branded it as Bad Head because that has multiple meanings. Like beer, the phone is called Head. Tapes, the place that contacts with the player is called a head. And then, of course, there's the euphemism, the other meaning. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, ask your parents, I guess. Or don't ask your parents. a little bit edgy, a little bit cheeky, but we got excited about it. And apparently other people did too, because what started as what was intended to be like an owner's meeting for just weird nerds who bought this dumb cassette player turned into like the most packed we've ever been. You know, it was standing room only essentially of, I think COVID is still out there, right? It's not over, but a lot of people are just kind of, you know, boosted and maybe they've already had it and they're just kind of over letting it control their lives to the extent that it did early on when things were a little less certain and more dangerous. So I think that was a big part of it. People were just ready in the area to have some event to go to and have something to do and socialize. So yeah, definitely more events like that. I'm talking to some other people about things like open mics, and my background, of course, is video and stuff. So I'd like to do some sort of a like Mina no Film Fest where essentially it's like the idea is not to have really polished, well-produced films. But just like interesting, creative little visual storytelling pieces that people can shoot on their phones, you know, and then show those in the bar. Things like that, like promoting DIY, sort of local artists, outsider art, folk art, that kind of thing. That's really my jam. So that's the kind of thing I'm going to try to use this space to build a community for.
That's fun. That's very, very fun. And, you know, it's like you get to just get involved with people that you are interested in and these things that you like to do. So yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So if if any of your listeners are in Tokyo, definitely come check us out, say hello. And if you're visiting Tokyo, if you're one of those lucky people here in October who get to fly over for the first time since 2020, then make room for us in your schedule and we'll have a great time.
One stop away from Shinjuku. So you're going to be in the area anyway, most likely.
And the areas, I'm just going to plug the area because I hadn't really hung out in this part of Tokyo for the first several years that I lived here, but it's super cool. Hatagaya, Sasazuka, and Daitabashi, those three spots are kind of, I think Hatagaya out of those three is the most sort of established. But the whole area, you could come here and make a day out of just walking around to all the cool local stores, record shops, restaurants. You can get barbecue at Freeman Shokudo in Hatagaya.
Nice.
And Daitabashi has an Okinawa town, which is just like a little street of Okinawa-themed restaurants, bars, knick-knack shops. There's a shop that focuses on salmon, so they have various like salmon prepared in various ways. And that's a place that you don't see on many blogs or hear on other places like this.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful place to visit or to live or to come and enjoy a craft beer, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I haven't been to that. I mean, I've passed through Shinjuku tons of times, but I haven't been to that area. So
the KO line is kind of a pain in the ass from Shinjuku Station, to be honest. I usually go through Sanchome because it's smaller and kind of easier to navigate. And because the KO platform in Shinjuku Station is one of those that you have to like have some Oji-chan like carry you in a satchel across a river, and you have to knock twice on a secret door and pass the troll's riddle, to find the KO line. So I just do Sanchome because there's less going on there, and the places I like in Shinjuku just tend to be close to Sanchome anyways.
Gotcha.
That's another pro tip for anybody looking to check out the area.
All right. No, good to know. So I will include a link to the Instagram, of course, in the show notes. But again, it's called Pintology. Pint like you drink the pint, and ology as in, ology, biology, blah blah blah. So last thing that I do want to ask you about, of course, like I first discovered you through your podcast Tokyo Splosion.
Yeah.
And then I started talking to you, and we've done stuff, but so I think it's not up currently. Yeah. Is that correct?
In my life's a bit of a mess recently, but a good mess, a fun and exciting mess. But in all that other kind of noise going on, I recently checked my podcast hosting platform emails for the first time in a long time, and realized my old card expired and my payment stuff was declined. So Tokyo Splosion hasn't been online for like 2 months, I think. I can probably bring it back up. Tony was kind enough to give me some pointers before recording. So currently it's in the Tokyo Splosion vault, and it will come back out as a special edition release, collector's edition.
For a limited
time. Yes, limited time.
Not for a limited time.
For 1 month only. You have to listen to all episodes, and it will come back next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it will be back up at some point.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's it's I've said it before, but and I still think it's one of the funniest, kind of Japan focused podcasts out there. And I know you guys aren't producing new stuff, but I think that classic stuff like holds up. Like it's like, it's almost like watching old like SNLs or something. It's still funny. Like it's just some good stuff on there. So
we will probably at some point bookend it with one more episode, because it just kind of ended, So it's felt like it's just sort of hanging there, and we've all met up. The thing is, two of the regular guys, Cal and Alec, they both have kids. Yeah. And when we do have time as adults now at this point to get together and hang out, we don't want to record a podcast. We just want to hang out.
I know.
So that's unfortunately why that has happened. But hopefully here this year, we'll find a time where we'll just do the push to record one probably officially final episode, and then make sure they're all up and available.
Squeeze one more out, and you can get the word out about the bar too.
Yeah, exactly.
If you had listeners, so if they hear, oh, Kyle's got a bar, well, I can't listen to the podcast, but I can go pay him to give me alcohol.
Yeah. And we do have some soft drinks. We got some interesting non-alcoholic drinks as well. I was turned on to Baisu by another local bar owner, who has a bar in Hatagaya. Do you know Baisu? Like red shiso?
No, what's Baisu? Sorry.
Baisu is red shiso.
Okay.
You can get like Baisu sours at bars. But we also have Baisu soda, which is a non-alcoholic Baisu drink, and it's fairly low calorie. It's it's more interesting than just drinking water or tea or whatever. So if you don't drink alcohol, you're totally welcome to come and be part of the Pintology phenomenon.
Nice.
The community, and drink some Baisu soda or what have you, munch on some snacks, order some tacos, and we'll have a great time.
Okay. Well, I like tacos, I like burritos, and I'm willing to try some Baisu. So maybe if in the summer I can head on over there.
Yeah.
I might pass by.
Yeah, that'll be amazing.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So link in the show notes, blah, blah, blah. Go check that out. Kyle, thank you for joining me for episode 100.
And congratulations, 100 episodes.
Thank you.
Where's the applause on your soundboard?
I didn't put applause. I'll just do another drum. Yeah.
The 100 drum.
That's the only sound I have. It's like drum, 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 drum.
Oh, and to commemorate your 100th episode here, I have brought you 100 yen worth of Lily of the Valley with little placards that say congratulations. So there you go.
Thank you.
I know how much you like NFTs, so they are NFT Lily of the Valley. And it makes you part of an exclusive Lily of the Valley club.
Awesome. I'm not even sure what Lily of the Valley is, to be honest.
Oh, you don't know? That's Lily of the Valley. Those are those like drooping white flowers. They're super expensive. And usually if you open a new business, people will give those to you. It's one of those like old school Japan
customs.
Customs. And sometimes you'll see a new business and they have all these Lily of the Valley. Yeah, look it up if you don't know what they look like. But when you see those,
I didn't know about that custom.
It's at least Ichimon per plant, oftentimes much more. So when you see businesses that have a lot of them, like people have dropped a ton of money to, but it's kind of like, that it's one of those cultural things that I don't really understand, because if you're going to spend like 100 yen on these flowers they're not going to last. Like they're just there temporarily. Why not just, I don't know, give me that money?
Well,
if you want to support the company.
Keep the economy going. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's really what it is. Yeah.
But well, what I wanted to say is, it's, to be honest, like I got into, I listened to podcasts here and there before, but I really got into Japan focused content when I started producing Japan focused content.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to learn, like, what are people doing? Can I do something different? And in that process, I came across Tokyo Splosion. I can't remember exactly how it was, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went. And like I said, I love the show. And we've gotten to basically like become friends through working together and just interviewing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's great to have somebody on for episode 100 that I met and have become friendly with thanks to doing a podcast. So that's what I wanted to say. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you for 100 episodes. Here's to 100,000 more.
Come on. You're dead. You're dead. You haven't. All right. Thank you. Yay.
Japan Station Bonsai.
Just do it!